We're in class number 5 in our series on purpose. And we started back at the beginning of the year, as I said, talking about planning and how to grab a hold of, harness, time and change. We talked about how there are the two things you cannot stop, time and change. But you can harness it. And if you don't have a plan for time and don't have a plan for change, it'll just pass you by. But you can. You can plan time. You can plan and use time constructively, and you can actually not just go along with change, but you can't stop it, but you can initiate some changes. Because everything has change built into it. God made it that way. We talk about a portion of scripture in Ecclesiastes that says, to everything there is a time and a season to every purpose. Ultimately, we're getting to this purpose, but I thought we'd talk about planning first, because it's essential that we live our lives making plans for the future. Otherwise, it will pass us by. Purpose requires that we plan. Then we took up after that another series on vision. And the reason we talk about vision is because I wanted us to understand, as spirit beings, we have an ability to do what other creatures can't do. Other creatures, like ourselves, have physical eyes. But physical eyes only see what was and what is. But you and I, as spirit beings made in God's image and after God's likeness, we have a creative faculty, a creative ability about us, built into our human spirit. And that is the ability of vision. Vision is something from the heart and allows us to see what isn't or is as yet not. Whereas the eyes only allow us to see what was and what is. So if you don't have vision, if you don't use this faculty, this ability that we have as a spirit being to have vision, see what isn't as of yet, we never move on. We always just live in what was and what is. In fact, every great breakthrough in society and humanity that moved forward was always people who saw what wasn't yet and went ahead and did it. Made it, like the Wright brothers or Steve Jobs and the iPhone and so on and so forth. Or the person who made sticky tape. I mean, how wonderful was that? If you knew what I did today, you'd never appreciate it, but what a wonderment it is. And so, with that said, we talked about vision and how that works. So, if you understand purpose, you'll understand that the way to make purpose happen is through vision. And the way to make vision happen is through planning. And so they all sort of work hand in hand. So we spent our time here talking about purpose. And we talked about that a thing exists is evidence of its purpose. Just the very fact that it is. There's not a thing in the room that doesn't have purpose. It exists because somebody saw a need or a problem or an issue or a lack. And in their ability to envision something, they created it. They created a solution to it. So the very fact that a thing exists, but we said this, God created everything, and all things exist for His pleasure. The truth would be pulled out of it is that God didn't make anything without a purpose connected to it. There's a functionality to it. And the very fact that we look around and see creation, everything in creation has a purpose. It was created for that functionality. It has a functionality to it. Having said that, when you look in the mirror, I want you to know that you were created with purpose. You're not an accident. People say, well, I know we weren't expecting it. God always was. And there's a functionality and a purpose for your life. Here's also another reality. We're not to spend our lives looking for a purpose. You actually are a purpose. You're a purpose. That was the reason you exist. That's why you're so unique, so individual. Your DNA, your iris print, your fingerprint points you out as being uniquely individual from everybody else and anybody else that ever existed, because God's got a purpose for you. The purpose for anything lies solely in the heart of the creator of it. Solely. You want to know what a thing is for. Now, I've used some sticky tape, sellotape tonight. I do not know what the creator of it made it for, but I certainly have improvised on it tonight. If somebody could see the way I have the video set up here tonight, you'd realize what I've done. But, when people create things, they have an intent, a functionality to it. It's like every time you buy something, you open the package, you get a manual stuck in it. The whole purpose of the manual is to relate to you the functionality and the purpose behind what you have in the box. And they ask you to read it. They ask you to read it because there are laws that govern it. There are principles that govern it. So it starts off, do not operate this in a tub of water, and so on and so forth. Or if it's a car, it tells you what type of gas to put in, and so don't put coffee in it, it doesn't work in coffee. As much as all as you like coffee, and so on and so forth. And so there are functionalities to it, laws to it, principles to it. And if you will comply with the Creator's intent, there's a warranty that goes with it. There's a guarantee that covers it. And if anything should fail or anything should break, they'll take it back and they'll fix it because they put their name on it. You also have to remember, when the product shows up, it has already been tested. It has already been approved. It has already got all the ingredients in it that are necessary to make it the thing that it is. So when you buy a car and they have their name on it, they put their name on it after they've complied with all of its parts and its functionalities and tested it and have proven it and are willing to stand over it and give it a warranty and a guarantee, and then they stick their label on it. So when you buy a car, you're not experimenting with it, you get to experience it. Your life is the same. The creative intent of God for your life and the purpose for it is for you to experience, not to spend your life looking for, or spend life experimenting. Everything you're meant to be is already in you. All your gifts and graces and qualities and attributes have already been tested, tried. They come from God, they've been given by God, they've been placed in you, and they work. We talked about being born again. What was the whole point of being born again? We took up that portion over in Ephesians in chapter 2. Where it says, for by grace we saved through faith, that not of yourself, not of works we stand in action. And it goes on and on. And we don't only finish there, but verse 10 says, for we are his workmanship, created in Christ, unto good works, which God had before ordained that we should walk in it. Or 2 Timothy 1:9 makes the statement, talking about God who saved us and called us with a holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his purpose, which he purposed in Christ before the foundation of the world. What's the point? The point is that he redeemed us not to eradicate our sinful past, but to guarantee our purposeful future. He redeemed us so he could put us back on track to fulfill our functionality, the uniqueness of our purpose. I got saved to fulfill purpose. We went through a whole bunch of different people, like Jesus and Paul and different ones, John the Baptist, all these people who knew their function. They asked John the Baptist, are you Elijah? No. Are you Elisha? No. Are you the Christ? Well, who are you? And the voice of one called him, but he knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly why he was. He knew that. He understood that. Jesus again, who was 12 years of age, and they lost him, and they came looking and found him, and they said, why did you do this to us? And he said, did you not know I was going to be about my father's business? And I'm 12, I know what I'm about. David, when they pulled him in from the sheepfold and anointed him with oil, Samuel the prophet, over the book of 1 Samuel, in chapter 16, even as a teenager, God anointed him as king. That was 17 years before he ever took the job, before he ever stood in the office, but he was called, and he knew he was. There was a purpose for his life. Elijah, Jeremiah, and all these people knew the purpose for it. Paul, although he was going 180 degrees opposite to the way God had intended him to be, when he met Jesus on the road to Damascus, the first thing he asked the Lord was, what would you have me to do? And he said, well, I'm so glad. It's about time we got this conversation going, because I have other plans for you, pal. And then he says in the book of Galatians, when it was good and seemed good to God, who called me from my mother's womb to interject into my life and use me to proclaim the gospel, I didn't confer anymore. I just went straight for it. So God wants you to know the purpose for your life. You just have to ask Him about it. Most believers in particular, most people don't, and most believers don't either. We're sort of waiting to exit here. We're waiting to be raptured. We're waiting to escape this sin-cursed, sin-filled world. Wrong! You got saved to fulfill and function a purpose. So we need to find out what it is and get on with it. We talk here about, we all know where and what and who and how we get to where we are today, but the real question of life is why. Why we exist, why we are here. Because why means purpose. Why do I exist? And that's the question we need to ask as believers. Why did God save me, and why did God create me? He created me to do something. We need to find out what that is. You need to find out. I need to find out. And then we get into these things here as we sort of fill in the recap here for everybody. Your free will is expressed 3 ways. Because you are free will, you don't have to do the purpose of God for your life. He gives you a free will. You can just, scoot off and do whatever you want. It's your life. But God does have a purpose and puts skill sets and crafts in you for that purpose that are unique to you. They may not be unique gifts, but in the way the manufacturer put it together in you with the personality that is you, you're unique. So your free will can be expressed 3 ways. You can submit to the purpose of God, but you have to find it. You have to discover it, is the word we have. Secondly, you can just be independent from it. Say, you know what, I don't really care what God's called us in my life. I'm just going to enjoy myself. I'm just going to wing it and get out of here and just be happy. Well, be happy. Just go independent of whatever God's purpose is in my life. Or, thirdly, you can just live in ignorance of it and think that your whole Christian walk is just about escaping here someday. Getting to heaven. I got saved to go to heaven. You did. You got saved to finish and fulfill the purpose of God in your life. Adam didn't fall from heaven, and we weren't promised eternal heaven. Actually, we're coming back here to live down here for eternity. So, anyway, the whole other story. So we need to find out. So, the 5 questions people ask, everybody asks. Most people never bother to get the answer, but they do ask. And that are these: who am I? Where am I from? Why am I here? What can I do? And where am I going? And you know what? Without God, life is an experiment. Without God, life is an experiment. Because if you don't find out who you are and where you're from and why you're here and what you can do and what you can be and where you're going, if you don't answer those questions, then all you're going to do with life is experiment. You might find something that you're relatively happy in, or, basically secure, happy, and you think, well, I'll just live here for the rest of my life. I'm happy enough. Que sera, sera. You know what? That might be fine, and you have a free will to do that. But I reckon when you get to heaven and you see what God intended for you to be, what God had planned for you to do, and you realize that you sat, and just sort of were happy, you could have made a big difference. But that's not be said of us. Righteousness with God is access to your purpose. The reason I say that is because the purpose of the thing lies solely in the heart of the Creator of it. So once you access God, you have access to the one who made you. You have access to the one who made you and the purpose He has for you. So the minute you get born again, you actually can go talk to God about your life and the purpose for your life, and the purpose for the salvation of your soul, and what God wants to do with you and through you. So who am I is a different answer now. And where am I from? Different answer. And why am I here? Different answer. And what can I do? Different answer. And where am I going? Different answer. I said these 3 things too. And that was, purpose is not determined by what a person can do. You say, well, obviously this is what I do, that's my purpose. No, not necessarily. You might be using those gifts and graces effectually, but not for the purpose in which you were given. Or, purpose is not determined by what a person is doing. He says, well, I can do that, but here's what I am doing. Obviously, this is my purpose. It might be. It might well be. It may not. Don't define it just because you're doing something. So, well, that obviously is it. And then finally, purpose truly is determined by the original intent of the one who created it. That's the reality. Now, I won't recap a little bit, but sometimes you put a lot of stuff out there, and it's hard to get it all into one sitting, so I'm going to make sure that we get it all again, run through the whole schematic of it all. These 6 things everybody on the planet is looking for. Every one of them. You'll find most of the problems of life evolve out of a delinquency of these principles. We all look for these. We all look for significance. We all want to be relevant. We all want to have recognition. We all want importance. We all want worth, and we all want meaning. I read through it very quickly last week, and let me just define them better for you again. Significance is the sense of importance by the quality of character, the quality of being worthy of attention, having consequence, having meaning. Everybody wants to feel significant. You don't want everybody to pass you by that you don't exist, or pass you by that nobody cares that you exist. Everybody wants to be a part of something. They want to have significance. Relevance. Relevance is connection to a function, or a task, or a matter at hand. Pertinence. A significant part of something. You see kids today joining gangs, or copying this or copying that, want to be a part of, belong to, whether it's a football club, Go Dogs, or something like that. Everybody wants to have relevance, and they feel relevant when they put that sweater on or that jersey on, and they go to the game and they join the crowd with thousands of others. And they feel because they can do that, or shout that, or scream that, and wear that colour, and shout Go Dogs, or Go Atlanta United, or whatever it is, that they have relevance, at least for them. Everybody wants to have relevance. I count, I matter. My song matters. I may not be the best singer, but when there's 75,000 of us singing, hey, my voice was in it too. I cheer them on as well. We all want relevance. We all want recognition. And the acknowledgement of someone's existence, being remembered for past engagements, uniquely identified. Everybody wants that recognition. I want to be acknowledged. I want people to know who I am, that I live so and so, that I work in such and such, and that I have a part to play. I want to belong. We're wired this way. I want to be important. I want to be accounted as having value, or infamy, or some level of fame. Give me credit for something, for goodness sake. I did something. If it was only to marry the right woman, or have the best kids, or whatever it was, give me infamy, give me some recognition and importance. Confess to be a high degree of interest. I'm important. I'm important to Lucy. I said I'm important. Look at that for a face. Look. She shrugs her shoulders. I don't know. Not quite sure. Maybe not. That's a long walk home to South Atlanta. That's all I can tell you. But I want to be important. I want to be important to my children. I want to be important to my grandchildren. I want to get up every morning and feel a sense of importance. My life counts. It's important to somebody. It's distinctly functional for some people. I want a sense of worth. It's a work of benefit, and usefulness, or appeal, having a caliber. I want to be of worth. I want to be of value. I want people that love me and want me and feel that I'm better than, more important than, more functional than maybe others. And it's not that I'm trying to be better than others. I just want to feel the worth. If that happened to me, that people would miss me. And then, of course, me, to communicate something not directly expressed. And inquiries about my life and existence. I haven't fully developed what I'm going to be yet, but I have meaning. I'm here with a function. I'm doing something about it. I'm in the process or the progress of it. I'm going somewhere with it. I'm not just existing. There's a meaning for it. And I'm exercising. The inquiry of what my life and my existence and my spiritual, physical, and social outworking is still evolving. So there's meaning to me. There's meaning for me. You take these away from somebody. You take significance or relevance or recognition or importance or worth, or you take meaning away from people. You take everything. It totally unravels them. There is one word for all of this, and that's purpose. That's really what it is. We want that sense of significance, relevance, recognition, importance, worth, and meaning. It's purpose. Now, let me move on to where we were last week. So, when God made us, God sent that purpose or destination. He predestined a purpose for us before you begin your journey. This pre-planning of God gives you and I the environments, situations, circumstances, and the challenges that activate, manifest, and reveal you. Sometimes you're going through things. You say, why am I going through these things for? Well, you know what? When you go through it, you thought you wouldn't at the beginning, you thought you'd never make it, and you come out the far side and you've learned something about yourself, you've developed something, you've revealed something about your stamina or character, or some of your attributes, or whatever, or your worth, or your value, or your meaning, or your existence. God knew that, and He allows certain things in our lives to reveal us, for us to work at, to work out what is in us. Listen, you can buy a BMW, pay the money for it, park it in the drive. Say, I have a BMW. No. Until you get it and drive it, until you take it on the road, until you take it and drive to California in it, until you test the gas in it, so on and so forth, until you test air, until you put some demand on it, you never know what it provides. You never know what was built into it without the demand you put on it. You hear them talk about different brands like Subaru, go off-road, and you know, this car has been going for 20 years and it's still on the road. They want you to take it places other cars can't go. So they designed it with that, and to all intents and purposes, it looks like an ordinary car. Until you take it off-road. Now it does things that other cars can't do off-road. Why?
Because that's how it's designed.
There's purpose for that. And you will never know the functionality of its purpose until it faces the challenges and the circumstance that activate and cause it to manifest the purpose. God knows that about you and I. A lot of times we throw our head up and our hands up and say, oh God, why? And we don't realize, if you understand purpose, you're built for stuff. You're built for stuff. In fact, go with me to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10, if you would. Is this recap okay for everybody? Just want to make sure that you're all getting the continuity of thought. 1 Corinthians, let's do it second part. I'm so sorry. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. And there's something we're going to read verse 11 through 13. Now, in chapter 10, he's talking about different tests and trials that the children of Israel went through. And they failed. Failed. They didn't need to fail. They were impatient, they were unthankful, they were ungrateful, they went into idolatry, they did several things. And Paul says here, they made these mistakes and God recorded them so we would learn lessons from them, so we wouldn't make
The same
mistakes. Then he makes the statement. He says in verse 11, someone was reading that, 11 through 13, if you read it clearly, because our folk on the
1 Corinthians or second?
1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 11 through 13.
I can read. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of the ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure.
All right, so he's basically saying, you know what? God has made you, especially now with the responsibility that's on all of us in the hour in which we live, but God's not going to let you go through anything that your purpose cannot deliver you from, or take you through, or give you the victory over. God's not going to put you, and if you are, one of them low-level Corvettes, He ain't taking you off-road. And you know that, because you get stuck in the first bump. I don't even know how people get through the little speed bumps on some of the roads. When I look at how low the cameras, I think, oh my goodness, you want to have a titanium bottom on that thing because sometimes the speed bumps are high. I know in Ireland where they started all that during the Troubles, that's where all that came from, in Northern Ireland, is where your speed bumps come from. And all of that was designed by the British Army during the Troubles in Northern Ireland to stop people.
They call them sleeping policemen in England.
Huh?
They call them sleeping policemen.
Yeah, but they were there to stop people driving bombs into different things and slow people going through housing developments and shooting up people and so on and so forth. So they put these speed bumps in to have to slow everybody down. And you certainly can't go into them any faster than, certain 10, 15 miles an hour, because you take the whole exhaust off the bottom, and many a person has. Didn't see them and took the whole rear end off the bottom of the car just by hitting the speed bump. So the point I'm making is, you're not going to take your Corvette off-road. It's not going to happen. It won't get far. But you can certainly take a Jeep or something like that, a Bronco or something. You can take that off-road. They're designed for it. God's not going to take you into a circumstance, a situation, a temptation, test, or trial that you don't have the ability within the purpose of what is in you to get through that and function through that victoriously at the other side. All with me? God built you for the way He built you, and He knows the way you're built, and He ain't going to put you into circumstances that He wouldn't believe you could come through. Sometimes you hear someone say, oh, if that ever happened to me, I don't know what I'd do. But I thought it won't happen to you. You may not have those graces and so on and so forth, but God knows what you're capable of. It's in the purpose in which He made you. And so, with these circumstances and situations, we find it pulls out our significance, our relevance, our recognition, importance, worth, and meaning. That's how you find God. That's where you discover them. It's why so many people today, unfortunately, exit out of life too early. Or get strung out too early on other things because they just don't feel life is worth living, or that they have a function in life, or that they're significant or have relevance, or they get no recognition or whatever. They don't feel important or worth. And they lose their life too early. Intentionally. It's because they lose sight of the purpose which is inbuilt in their design that God created. So, this is where we are. Ecclesiastes 12. Solomon comes to a conclusion in all his wisdom. And he says, let us hear the conclusion, the whole of the matter. Fear God and keep His commandments. Not just one. There's many different things. Or obey the principles. Stick to the rules. Stay within the parameters of the design. This is the manual, by the way. You know, when you buy a washing machine, or when you buy a TV or whatever, you open the packet, you get a manual that tells you how it runs. This is the manual for humanity. This is how we run. This is how we function. These are the principles. These are the rules. These are the guardrails. Stick within them, conform to them, and everything will go great. You'll fulfill functionality and purpose. You will. Guaranteed. There's a guarantee and a warranty that goes with it. So, he says, look, Solomon said, my conclusion, having done what he done, He said, look, just do what God says, for goodness sake. Stop running after all sorts of, just do what God created you to do. Be what God created you to be. That's really what you're here for. So, here's a commandment that we forget. When I say commandments, we automatically think, oh, I know the ones that, the first name of the Lord your God. No. Let's go right back to the very first commandment. Very first commandment God gave humanity. God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful. Now that's not go have babies. That's not what that word means. Later on, the next word says replenish. That means to have babies, have put more babies back, repopulate. But that first word, the first commandment was to be fruitful. Fruit that you see on a tree is the outward manifestation of what's on the inside of the tree, is it not? The apple on the branch came from inside the tree. The orange or the pear or the peach, whatever it is that's on the branch, came from the inside. What he said to Adam here, the term used is become yourself. He didn't say be seedful. He said be fruitful, that means be seed. He didn't say be seedful. Later on, multiply and replenish, that's a different command. Fruit means you take what's on the inside and put it on the outside. Become yourself. Become yourself. Do what you are made to. Be Adam. Be Eve. Be the purpose for which I designed you to be. That's really what he's saying. To be. To be yourself. To be self. And we're going to find out next week we have, the only way to do that is to work. Work is the only way to get that out of you. You can't get it out any other way. You can't be fruitful without W-O-R-K. There's the only way to do it. We take that out there. So, that was the very first commandment. Be yourself. Become your purpose. Fulfill your purpose. Do what I made you to do. Be what I made you to be. Achieve what I've asked you to accomplish. Be fruitful. That was the very first commandment he told Adam. He put Adam in there and he says, have at it. Be you. Be Adam. When he made Eve, be Eve. Be yourself. Do what I've created you to do. Be fruitful. Put outside, manifest outside all the potential resources and the gifts and graces that I built into you when I put my name on you and called you mine, the son and the child of God. Be you. And that's what we need to be. We find that many people never do become themselves because what happens is we listen to what other people tell us we should be and should become, and we compromise our purpose for what other people think we should be or think we should do. And we sell out too early. We sell out too quick. And we never fulfill our purpose. So, everybody with me?
Son, I've heard you share in other sessions also about being fruitful like fruit on a tree. You don't see an apple orchard where they're stressed out and screaming trying to produce fruit. It comes natural. We've got our roots in the soil, in the Word of God, and seeking it diligently and vigilantly.
Yeah. When you say natural, describe what you mean by it comes natural.
It just comes naturally. It just actually blooms.
It's there. It's because it's there. It's effortless because it's already built in. It's already in the tree. And when God said be fruitful, it's effortless change. It's just the ability to be yourself. Our problem is we have been so ignorant of all of these realities, and we've been sold another bill of goods that we're running around trying to conform to and be something that we actually aren't asked to be. And, you know, the saddest thing in life is to be successful at the wrong assignment. That's the saddest thing in life. To have spent your whole life successfully doing the wrong thing. See, but I was good at it. I know, but it wasn't the thing you were meant to do. You were meant to do something else. Well, my gifts and graces, yeah, those gifts and graces were to do something else. You just use them for something else. Somebody told you that that's what you should be using them for. But because you weren't in touch with your Creator, who had the original intent for the purpose of your life, you never really found out. And if you did, and if you do, it's normally by experimentation or accident. All with me. All right. Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in a person's heart. Hey, we go through life and we come up with all sorts of ideas. You know, when you're 6 years of age, you want to be a fireman. When you're 8 years of age, you want to be a crocodile. When you're 10 years of age, you want to be a spaceman. And as you go through life, you know, you work your way through your adolescence. Now you want to be, you know, the best footballer or the quarterback, and here you go, and you keep changing all the time. There are many plans in a person's heart as they grow and develop through life. But it's the Lord's purpose that is the prevailing factor of who you are. You can go with all sorts of plans, truly. Truly, you can experiment with a lot of things, but it's God's purpose for your life that will prevail. It'll always be there. You may not enter it, you may not find it, you may not discover it, but it's there. It prevails. Other things change. Man, you know, I don't think I want to be a crocodile anymore. I think I want to be this. I don't think I want to be that anymore. I think I want to be that. And all sorts of change. But there is one thing in your life that will not change. It won't change. What is it?
God's purpose.
God's purpose for your life. It ain't changing. He doesn't have to change it. Because it's perfect for you. It's perfect for me. And everything that's in it and all that's about it is already in you naturally to be it and to do it. You just have to talk to God about it, because He's the one who knows what it is. And He's not hiding it from you. Proverbs 20, verse 24. Man's goings are of the Lord. Or in other words, you actually exist because of God. It's He who enables you to inhale and exhale, and your heart to beat, and your eyes to see, and all these wonderful wonderments of what God does and gives and equips us for. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? So let me ask you a question. If you don't talk to God about it, don't find out from God what your purpose is, how can you ever know whether you're there or not, whether you're doing it or not? The answer is? The answer is?
You can't.
You can't. So you're experimenting. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm rich. I'm satisfied. I'm content. They're not the reasons to live, folks. And it's nice that those things exist. But if you've got stuff to do and something to be, that's really your functionality. You've got to get after that. So you don't know, truly. Life is an experiment without having that conversation with your Creator. Jeremiah 10:23. O Lord, Jeremiah says, I know that the way of man is not in himself. He doesn't know himself. It is not a man that walks to direct his own steps. Or basically what he's saying is, God, you know what, I'm at a disadvantage. When I don't get to talk to you and I don't have your input in my life, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's next. Now I thank God now that I'm born again. One of the reasons you got born again was to be indwelt by the Spirit of God, so that He can lead you and guide you into what? Truth. The truth is the functionality of what you were designed meant and planned to be. And the guidelines and all of the stuff is in the book. It's all there. That's what we're going to leave this guy. That's what the Spirit of God is doing. He's your counselor, your comforter, your guide, your advocate. He's got several different roles in your life. And basically all it is to help you grasp and understand God's intent and purpose for your life. That's what He's there to do. That's why He's there. You know, well, what's He to lead me in? Where to go tomorrow and what to do? So what? In fact, go to Proverbs chapter 3. Proverbs the 3rd chapter. Everybody doing okay?
Yes, thank you.
Proverbs chapter 3. And he's talking about getting involved with the Word of God, which is the manual for how we function, the parameters of what gives us success in life. Somebody want to read the first 3 verses for me?
My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For the length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart.
Now, with the familiar verses, talking about the Word of God, go to the manual, go to the instruction book, do what it says, stay within the principles of it, and then he makes this next step we're all familiar with.
That's 5, but I'm going to read 3 and 4 again, and then I'll go.
Okay?
So do not let kindness and truth leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart, so you do not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths.
Turn to God. Put the Word front and center in your life. Turn to God. Commit your way to Him, your tomorrow, your job, your skill, your set, your gifts, your graces, your talents. Say, God, I thank you for it. I mean, I thank you for work. I thank you for where I work. I thank you that work is my job. There's a difference between job and work, and I'll explain that to you next week. But thank you for what I do. But in all my ways, I'm going to acknowledge you. You start to direct me according to your purpose. But that's what we're looking for. Purpose. Psalm 37, verse 23. The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who puts God front and center. I'm paraphrasing. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways. Say, God, is this what you want me to do? God, is this what you want me to be? God, is this what I'm about? Is this why I'm about? If it is, take me there. If it's not, you know, I keep doing it until you change. I want to be in your perfect will. Once you start doing that, God starts making firm directional steps for your life. Because you're putting God front and center. You're now seeking, desiring purpose. Paul says this to the church of Rome. He said, so then, every one of us shall give an account of himself, herself. You know what, guys? I'm not going to give an account for you. I'm not going to give an account for Lucy or my kids. I'm not going to give an account per se, because they're old enough to give an account for themselves. But I'm going to be asked what I did with the purpose that God placed on me, the responsibility God gave me, and the graces God gave me to do it. So what did you do with it? And not much. Not a lot. I was very happy what you gave me. I used it over here. And I made them very wealthy. They gave me a gold watch for it. Gold watch. Yeah, a handshake. Put my name on a plaque. Happy with that? Here's what you should have done. Here's what you could have done. Here's what you could have done. Here's what you could have solved. Here's the difference you could have made. You and I will all give account. When it says here of himself, it's of our purpose before God. What did we do with the life God gave us? And the functionality of that life? Did we hit the mark, or did we go around? Now sometimes it takes us a while to get there, so don't get me wrong. In case you think, well, I've got to drop everything tomorrow because I don't think I'm in the right place. No, don't do that. We talk about work and jobs next week. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think it starts like I didn't accept Christ till I was 48? Now I had to work, my life was wonderful and I was very happy and joyful, but I really did not understand about how important my job was and what I was really supposed to be doing once I had that connection with God. It was like, God, that changed everything. Then when I was out there with the people, I was a flight attendant with Delta, and it made such a difference. And I really knew God was with me. And that's what I was thinking was changing it, because He was with me. And so when we have to give an account, will He start around that time going forward?
I honestly don't know. All I do know is this. Maybe your life's experiences have been part of the preparatory work of pulling out the graces, pulling out the importance, pulling out the significance, pulling out all of those things we talk about that make our life worth and meaningful and purposeful. All of those things, I don't know. It's not God's will for any man to perish, everybody to be saved. I think the sooner you come to God, the better, the sooner you turn your heart that way. But I do know this, He engaged Paul on the road to Damascus, at that. But Paul's training in religion and tradition certainly give him an understanding of the functionality of what God's purpose was for his life from that moment forward. But all the training for that, the potency of his life going forward, came from that religious life that he was stuck in. He learned a lot of stuff back then too. So I don't know. I don't know if that's for your life or mine. We all come from different walks of life. We all have different experiences in life. I do know this, that the experiences I've had in life before I met Christ have certainly educated me and given me some worldly learning of life that I might not have got elsewhere. I don't know.
That's true, I agree with that. I think I can see the same thing for myself.
But another thing to think about is, God obviously sent Christ for a purpose. And he pointed out in a previous class that, probably by the age 12, when he was in there with all the scribes and Pharisees and sitting teaching, that he probably understood his purpose. There's a good chance he understood his purpose by age 12. But he didn't really step into his ministry until age 30.
Right.
So he had 18 years, if I'm doing my math right, to live a, quote, normal life. And it was for the last 3.5 years that he really blossomed, or was his time. So just because somebody's been here and you've lived a normal life, don't necessarily think that you've missed it. God could be putting us through our character development. He could be, some people, it could be 30 or 40 years of something specific they're supposed to do. But for other people, it could just be our character development and do our thing and love people and do all the general things.
I agree.
And then we'll get to our specific. And we don't, and he knew at 12, all of us might not know. So you don't necessarily, it's good to ask the questions, and if God tells you, great, but don't necessarily think that you've missed it.
Exactly, and I agree. I think that's, and I'm not qualified to answer that question because all I can say is I've used my 20 odd years of worldly life experience in my Christian life. I've sort of made me aware of stuff. And people say, well, I wish I came to Christ earlier. I understand all of that too. But I'm not angry that I came to Christ when I did and learned what I had, and because I've applied it. In my life as it is.
So it helps you relate to other people from your background.
As Sharon says, we don't understand many times what's going on in this, but Jesus, was a builder in Sephora for 18 years, and working with his stepdad and maybe running a business in there, doing building and woodwork and carpentry and bricklaying, and because there was a big Roman city there called Sephora, just 5 miles away from Nazareth, where Jesus lived. And that's where they worked. I was under construction, a huge city that was built there during the time Jesus lived there. It was a big metropolis for Romans to go on holiday in, actually. It was a holiday resort for Roman citizens. So, and he worked in Sephora, obviously, is where he went. So he had life's experience. So when he said, my sheep hear my voice, he saw them bringing the flocks into the Sephora on a weekly basis and putting them all in the sheep gate and then the shepherd come in the morning and making the sound or the clicks that he makes, and all his sheep walk out of the other sheep and follow his voice. And he thought, there's a good illustration. And that's the way my sheep hear my voice. And he used all of that stuff, the wine and the wine bottles, and he didn't see that necessarily in Nazareth. He got that from life's experiences, knowing the way people did life. He was able to relate to people in life. So I can't answer it definitively, but I would agree. I think everything that you've all said has been.
Another interesting story about Paul, most people think that after the road to Damascus, he just immediately started his ministry. Well, it took him years before he started, preaching and
Yeah.
writing the letters, and
Yeah.
he had to do other things to get prepared.
He was a teacher in Antioch. Barnabas came down and took him to Antioch. And the thing about Antioch was a Gentile church. Now, if anybody knows Paul was a bigot. Paul was a Hebrew of Hebrews and a Pharisee of Pharisees. And as concerning the law and the righteousness thereof, he was untouchable. He hated the Gentiles. I mean, he stuck to the law. And where do you think God went and put him?
The Gentile.
In a Gentile church, with all of these people from Grecia and all over the place, who were all getting born again, and he sort of looked and going, you're just going to have to teach me, God. You're just going to have to show me what's going on here. And he became the apostle to the Gentiles. But you're absolutely right, Michael. He didn't just jump into it. He took his experience, but he still had learning to do, and became a great apostle because of his experience.
But
He
the
was a
fact
bigot.
that he was so one-sided before that, gave credibility to him when he came back to the other side too.
Yeah. So, as I said, God was working all things together for good for those that love the Lord. So when you start turning toward God, it's amazing what God can take out of your life, from your life, and use it. So,
If you need help, you don't want to go to somebody that's just read a book. You want people that have been there and lived through it and have experiences similar.
there's nothing like it. You see these people, they become architects or engineers in college, but what is it they say? An ounce of experience is worth, a pound of knowledge or whatever it is. I don't know which way they do it, something like that. You just go for the experience. It's amazing. And I'll talk about that too. Because to fulfill your purpose, you don't have to be smart or intelligent or tall or slim or whatever people say. To fulfill your purpose, you have to be you. And when a college or university say you're not intelligent enough to be significant, important, or of worth, or infamous, or whatever, because you haven't got the intellect, you missed it. You don't have to have intellect to be you. Because there are a lot of people never had a university degree or a college education and did awesome things in life and in the world without any of it. But this generation, our generations, have succumbed to allowing others to give us their perspective of what we should be, and that's our problem. We have lost sight of our purpose and started to live out the perspectives of others. You all with me? Oh, you should be a doctor. You're a very caring person. You should be a nurse. I think you'd make a great nurse. Really? Oh, yes. I think you'd be a marvelous nurse. You're great with figures. You should be an accountant. Do you think so? Absolutely. I mean, you can add, double digits in your head. Most kids today need a calculator. And then you remember doing your sums in your head. And when we were growing up, you just had to do it. You did math in your head. You didn't have calculators to do it. So now a kid can't add up. You see them in the shop. You give them $20 and it was $16.24. If the till doesn't say what it is, the register, then you got to get a computer and go 20 minus 16. Student head couldn't say. So anyway. It says then Peter, this is Peter walking along the beach. Now, I remember my point here. You've got to give an account of yourself. You can only answer for what you were meant to be and you were meant to do. You've got to talk to God about that, not me. You don't talk to me about that. That's not it's between you and him. Peter now has been resurrected, but he's walking down the beach with Peter. Remember that story where he said, Peter, do you love me? Peter goes, yes, I love you. He said, feed my sheep. And then he goes, do you love me? He goes, yes, Lord, you know I love you. He said, well, feed my lambs. And so on and so forth. And then as they're walking down the beach, Peter looks back, and there seems to be a lot of animosity to some degree, between Peter and John. They were both in Jesus' close inner circle. Everywhere you see Peter, you'll see John. Peter, James, and John. They were always together. They were the threesome that God took with him on the Mount of Transfiguration, or in to see Jairus' daughter healed. And when he was looking for a small group, he just took those inner circle. But John in his gospel, describes himself as the one who puts his head, on Jesus' side and Peter probably thinking, oh, you're such a wuss, but I'd love to give you that. Peter's a boisterous one, whatever, but John describes himself as the one who
Jesus loved.
Jesus. I don't want to brag or anything, really. I was number one. Peter said, I'll give you number one. I'll give you two. And it was this so Peter's walking down the beach with Jesus, having this personal conversation, because he was the one who denied Jesus 3 times when the cockerel crowed, and now he's getting his time to, make amends and put it right. And Peter and Jesus are walking, having this deep conversation about purpose. It's all about purpose. And Peter looks back and sees John. And Peter automatically thinks, what about him? I'm just wondering, now we are talking about purpose. And you're going to use me, to, feed the lambs and feed the sheep, and thank you for that. But then, the one that thinks he's the be-all and end-all of apostolic love, and what about him? And here's what Jesus said. Watch the story. Then Peter, turning about, seeth the disciple whom Jesus loved. Now this is John's gospel, so that's the way John describes himself. Peter wrote back and saw me. He's having this conversation about feeding my lambs or whatever, and getting his purpose of life. Then Peter, turning about, seeth the disciple whom Jesus loved following, which also leaned in his breast at supper, and said, Lord, which is he that betrayed thee? So he's really special. John is a really special individual, and he writes that way. But then Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, Lord, what shall this man do? What about him? Thank you, and you've told me my purpose. What about John? I'd love to know what John is going to do. And then said Jesus unto him, if it be that he tarry until I return at the second advent, that's none of your business. You just follow me. It's none of your business what I have. If I decide John's going to live right through till I come back on the second advent, that's none of your business. Your business is to feed my lambs and to feed my sheep. That's what I told you to do. That's what you're going to give an account for. Don't you worry about John. John will have enough worries of his own. Stop trying to be somebody else. Stop worrying about if you're competing with others. Stop it. You don't have to give an account for me. You don't have to be me. And I don't have to be you. I've got gifts and graces to do what I do. And you've got gifts and graces that make you uniquely you. And for me trying to be you, when I go to talk to God, He's not going to ask me what I did to be you. He's going to ask me what I did to be me. That's what's important. Work at being yourself. Find the purpose and use the gifts and the graces God has for you. Talk to God about you. He's not going to keep it from you. He wants you to know. So, as we get to the wind this down for tonight. You don't have to be smart. Say, thank goodness for that. You don't have to be smart, intelligent, tall, short, slim, or right, etc., to be successful. You don't. What? Who told you that you did? Who said you weren't smart enough to be? To be what? Well, you're not smart enough to be a rocket scientist. But I'm not supposed to be a rocket scientist. Well, you don't have the intellect to be. But I'm not meant to be. Well, what are you meant to be? What God called me to be. All the graces, gifts, smart, intelligent, intuition, all of that stuff is there. It's built in. It came with the product when He put His name on me and made me. With intent. You just have to be yourself. Within you are all the attributes and the qualities that are needed to be a success. And your success is measured by the ability to fulfill your purpose, not to compete with another person's purpose. So someone says, well, I did this and I did that, and I've achieved this and I've achieved that. I couldn't give a figures what you've done. Because I'm not called to be you. I'm called to be me. I congratulate you in achieving what you've done and whatever. And I hope to goodness that when you meet Him face to face, that was what He had planned for you to do in me. Because you'll get rewarded for that. But I'm not really interested. As much as I'm interested about succeeding in fulfilling the purpose which is my life. My success in life is not measured on how I compete with you. My success in life is measured by how I achieve and fulfill the purpose of which God gave me life. That's a success. That's what a success is. And you don't need a degree. You don't need this, you don't need that. You don't need anybody else to affirm or confirm or give you the absolution that says you have it. Everything you're meant to be is already there. All the skill sets and graces are already there. And as you said earlier on, it comes naturally. It's because it's you. It's because it's you. You don't have to struggle with it. Hey, I understand we all have jobs to go to, and I'm talking about the difference between jobs and work. Because there's a difference. But I want you away tonight just thanking God that you are you. You don't have to be anyone else. God is so happy with you. He is so amazed with you. He has got so much plans for you. He's got a job for you. He's got a task for you that only you can do. You alone, you. Oh, there'll be others who do similar things and maybe contribute to. But you are uniquely you. And you are special. And you are wonderful. And have been wonderfully made. Wonderfully made. Wonderfully fashioned. And wonderfully planned to be in this generation at this time in this place. So, smile when you see yourself in the mirror and think, you haven't seen the best of me yet. And they haven't. You haven't seen the best of me yet. And I haven't seen the best of you yet. You haven't seen the best of you yet. Because there's so much in there that hasn't come out yet. Still there. Did you know in me was a husband? It was there. It was always there. It was there when I was 2. It was there when I was 10. It was there when I was 12. It took a wife to pull that husband out of me, but it was there. There was a dad in here as well. There was a dad in me when I was 4 and 5 and 10 and 12. But it took my children to pull that out of me. Hey, there was a granddad in there. It took a grandbaby to pull it out. There's a lot of stuff in there that hasn't come out yet. Life itself and time and circumstance will pull it out. Need will. My generation will. the consequences of what's going on, well, it'll pull it up. So there's a lot of me you haven't seen yet, and there's a lot of you we haven't seen. That's why you'll have it tomorrow and you'll have a day after, because God will give you the grace to finish what He started in you.
Yes.
Because that's where He gets the glory from. Not the start, what He did, but finishing in you, through you, His purpose for your life. Any questions on any of that tonight?
You know, everything you said tonight, really boils down to having a relationship, a personal relationship with the Lord. All the scriptures, everything, His plan, you know, so it's really.
Yeah, and it's, you know what? The terminology, having a relationship, can be very narrow. Because people, I'm born again, I have a relationship with God. But, you know, I have a relationship with every one of you in this room to a greater or lesser degree. But my relationship with Lucy is completely different than any relationship with any of you in this room. Because our relationship is much more intimate and deeper and personal and you know, it draws from, you know, every relationship has its potency, but that one more potency than anything.
It's because you spend time with her.
Yes.
It's because she spends nights with you and you spend time with her.
Yeah.
Same way with
God.
God, the Word of God. You know, you can say I love Jesus, but you know, it's maybe go to church once a week.
Yeah.
But when I got in the Word, when I started studying the Word, when I started reading about who Jesus was and all the things, and you know, you got excited to be a child of God. So.
That's exactly right. And you know what? And Lucy and I were talking recently, you know, about our kids, grandkids, and all the things we're doing. And sometimes, you know, as I say, people will see me up front and say, oh, you know, he's up front, there he is, you know. He gets all the glory, you know, he's the one up front, he's the one, you know, he's the one who's deep. You know what? I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. She's very much a part of what I am and what I do. We've done it together. We are a team. We've worked together. We've planned it, we've lived it out, we've navigated the tough times and the good times and the hard times. We've navigated life for what we're doing right now. We've got here together. And you know what? When you walk with God that close and intimately,
Yes.
you do it together.
Yes.
And you never take the credit for it and say, oh God, you know, I'm so great, God's in there. We've done it together. You and I, because we spent that time. So you're right, the intimacy and everything.
And to have a relationship with God, you've got to pray and talk to Him.
Talk to
He
Him.
knows what you need, but He wants you to tell Him.
That's one of the keys.
Ask Him.
That's one of the keys. You're right, Michael. It's that intimacy with God.
Yeah.
That intentional,
Yes.
not casual, hey, I'm here on Sunday, there's the time, there's the, I'm part of the team, I wore the jersey, I went to the Atlanta game, I'm a fan. No, I don't want a fan. I want somebody to fulfill the purpose. So don't just come to me on Sunday, let's talk during the week, let's talk about where you're at, talk about life, talk about your ups, your downs, your aspirations, your anxieties, your cares, your worries, you know, the fears that are going on in the world. Let me talk to you about stuff. And I'll take you through it. So, yeah.
That's why He said, acknowledge me in all your ways, because He wants a continued friendship with you. He cares about what we care about. We care about what God cares about.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's like talking to Him about everything.
Yes.
Like what you were saying. Just,
But you never know somebody until you spend time with them.
that's right.
And you gotta spend time with God. God's got a purpose for you and for me. And the best way to find out is to spend that time with Him. He'll tell you, He'll show you.
And to be thankful for what you've got.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And don't despise where you're at
Yes.
and the journey you've been on. Because I'm going to show you next week. I'm going to show you next week that part of you getting to where you're going is the fact that you're sitting in this class.